Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Phoenix Airlines. We are back in the cockpit today of my favorite plane, the Cessna 172. I am so glad you are here. We are going to do today a tour, the U.S. Capitol, Washington. We are going to go all over Washington. We are sitting here at Ronald Reagan International Airport, or otherwise known as National Airport. We're going to do a little bit of sightseeing. We're going to fly the Potomac River. And then I think we're going to turn to the west and we're going to land at Dulles International, a much, much bigger airport than Reagan. And we are probably going to be landing on, I think it's going to be maybe 3-6 center, perhaps. We'll see when we get there. But I just want you to have a cold drink, sit back and relax while we go ahead and get this guy rolling. We're going to have to fire up our plane here. So first things first, let's turn off the yoke. For those that don't know, my name is Phoenix. I am your captain today. We are going to be having a wonderful time together. I am a chess expert, a risk expert. If you've seen videos on the channel before, then you know what I'm talking about. But this is what I like to do in my spare time. Look at all of those gauges. So much to do, so much to see. So why don't you just take the back seat? All right, we are not ready yet. Let's turn on the fuel pump for just a little bit and get some fuel to the engine. We're going to want to add a little fuel so that I can get to the engine. And then we're going to want to fire on our batteries. In fact, let's get that back on here. And we've got some fuel flowing to the engines. Let's make sure our parking brake is set, because if it is not, we're going to go rolling down the runway. Okay. Hey, buddy, I don't need a pushback, but I am going to need you to step back from my propeller. So clear prop. Anybody around? I don't want to chop anybody's head off. Nobody is around. Let's go ahead and fire up the engine there. And then go right there. And start her up. Oh, love hearing that purr, huh? Propeller spinning? It sure is. You can see that flicker right there in the sky. So let's go ahead and dial back that throttle just a little bit. And now let's fire up our avionics, get all the computer stuff working. All right, now we're going to want to turn on our beacon light and, of course, our taxi light while we still can. We're going to need to get the weather so we know where we're going. Yes, a familiar boot up, beep up. If you are familiar with the television show The Walking Dead, for most of the seasons, it takes place in Alexandria. Well, that happens to be right around where we are, not too far. So we're going to need to get the weather here. It's on frequency 132 and 0.65. So we're going to turn the inner knob, turn that one down to 6.5. There we go. And let's flip it over.
Washington Airport information, uniform 1800 Zulu. Wind 071 at 7. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 14. Dew point 10. Altimeter tree 0.4 tree. ILS runway 1 in use. Landing and departing runway 1. DFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have uniform.
Okay, uniform is that.
Washington Airport
Now I missed
information,
the
uniform 1800 Zulu.
windage.
Wind 071 at 7. Visibility
Wind 071
10.
at 7.
Sky
Okay.
condition clear. Temperature.
Okay. So what they just told us is that they said information uniform, which means that that is the current weather. Its name is uniform, like the name of the report. And of course, that just means the letter U. And the next one will be Victor. At the top of the hour, they will change it and it'll become Victor. And then that way they know when you talk to the controller, you say, yeah, we have uniform, meaning that you listened to the weather, and so you know what you're expecting. So what they said there was they said wind is 071 at 7, meaning it is coming from 71 degrees, mostly east. Okay, so It's only 7 knots. That's not very much at all. Then visibility was 10 statute miles and the sky conditions are clear. So we want to look out. Are they clear? They do appear to be quite clear. So that matches. And now we want to know about the temperature. It's 14 degrees outside Celsius and 10 degrees is the dew point. So we're okay with the weather. It's clear. It's a little bit chilly, but not too bad. Now, they told us the altimeter was 3043. When the weather moves in, and that's way different than what we have, so we're going to dial that all up. Look how, when I adjust and I calibrate this to the correct altimeter, we get almost 0 reading as our elevation. Looks like we're at 20 feet above sea level. That makes sense because we are very close. Washington is on the Atlantic coast almost. There's just a little bit of bay, the Chesapeake Bay, separating Washington. So if you follow the Potomac River, which we are right next to, you can see it in the distance here. If you follow that out, you will hit the Chesapeake Bay. And if you follow the Chesapeake Bay, you will hit the Atlantic Ocean quite quickly. So let's get started here. I am going to tell ground that we are ready to taxi here. Okay, so what I would normally say is, I would say something like, I think they're called Washington here, right? Or is that Washington Dulles? Yeah, I think we'll say Washington ground. Check 1-2. That's the name of my airplane. We are on the south at General Aviation Parking, ready to taxi for takeoff, runway 1. Let's do that. And we want to depart to the south. So I'll tell the game that we're going to do that.
Washington ground, check 1-2 with uniform request taxi to the active departure to the south.
He said it all
Check
weird.
1-2 taxi to and hold short of runway 1 via taxiway Kilo Bravo Alpha cross runway 4 Echo. Contact tower on 119.1 when ready.
Okay, so we'll taxi to runway 1 on Kilo Bravo Alpha cross runway 4 Echo, and then we will contact tower on 119.1.
Taxiing hold short runway 1 via taxiway Kilo Bravo Alpha cross runway 4 Echo, check 1-2.
Got that? Okay, we're ready to roll. Now, this being a game, normally I would consult the map, but let's go ahead and get out of here. So let's go ahead and turn off our parking brake, allowing us to move. And pardon me, sir, but we don't want to cut your head off, so I'm going to turn the nose wheel of the plane. I steer with my feet in this plane. I've noticed that this game tends to have me just rocking to the left, so I do have to fix that with some calibration, but we are going to turn to the east. Ooh, look at that guy. Steady your moss. You're flying a big plane, right? Good for you. We want to do some sightseeing. I could put you in the jumbo jet, guys, but if I did that, you wouldn't be able to see out the window. We'd be going 400 miles an hour right past it, and I'd go, and there's the Capitol, and there was the Capitol, and it's gone. So we're just going to go ahead and taxi behind this guy. And it's going to be fun watching him take off. Just going to go ahead and follow him. I don't think he's at the right spot. Go ahead and follow that taxi line. This yellow line, you want to keep your nose wheel on it. It's very hard in a video game to do it, but it's because of the sensitivity of the control surfaces, but a lot easier in a real plane. Okay, so we're supposed to taxi on Kilo, which we are, and then Bravo, which we did, and then Alpha. And so we are on taxiway Alpha. We need to cross over 4 Echo and use runway 1. I think we're going to go... What runway are we on right now? This is 22 and 4. So we need to cross over 4. But I guess we'll do it midfield since I have a very small plane. Now, we were cleared. Looks like that guy just doesn't care. He doesn't care where he's going. He's trying to taxi onto the wrong runway, I think. We were supposed to cross over 4 Echo, and so we are. This is 4. And now he's in the run-up. Good job, sir. Steady your Moss 280. You know what you're doing, man. Okay, we are definitely going to cross that runway threshold, and then we are going to hold short right behind this plane, and he should be taking off shortly. Yep, he's taxiing on. He's going to go a little bit to the south, and then he's going to hard turn the opposite direction. Cool is that, huh? Look at those big guys. I do like to fly the bigger planes here. Okay, now we have runway 1, and we're holding short. Can't wait to watch this guy take off. Let's go ahead. See if we can follow him as he goes down the runway. Oh boy, where are you going, man? You're lost. Goodbye and safe travels. We're going to go line up behind him. I guess I'll call the tower, right? Since I'm trying to do this the professional way. Now we're going to say, oh, can't do it now. Too late. Now that I'm on the runway, they won't let me call him. I wanted to get a picture of that plane taking off. But he is well on his way down the runway. Okay.
Washington Tower, check 1-2 ready for south departure at runway 1.
Check 1-2 wind 071 at 7. Departure to the south approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 1.
All right, let's go ahead.
Cleared for takeoff runway 1, check 1-2.
All we have to do is go full throttle here. Make sure the flaps are up. We don't need a carburetor on this plane, so we're just going to go ahead and add a lot of left rudder, so we don't need to worry about our carb heat, which you need to turn on and off depending on how cold the outside air temperature is. Okay, we're going to rotate, and we're just going to fly that runway heading. And now that we're in the air, I can take my, and we're gaining airspeed, I can take my pressure off of the left rudder. So I'm actually flying this almost straight, and you can see in the distance there's the Washington Monument. So you may notice my nose is pointed a little bit to the right. Why is that? Well, they told us the wind was coming from 70 degrees, which is right on our right hand side. So we're going to turn now to the south. So our first stop is the development of Alexandria.
Check 1-2 continue for south departure.
Okay, I will.
Washington Tower, check 1-2 continue for south departure.
We're just going to hold this 30-degree bank. Right now, we are flying over the Potomac River. Not only was Washington built on the Potomac River, but so was Mount Vernon, home to George Washington. There's Reagan Airport. I do, right after takeoff, like to fly over the airport to show you guys. You would not do this, of course, in real life. There are planes down there trying to take off, and the controllers would never allow you to do this, but this is a video game. It's kind of uncool to say that people like to call it a simulator. But there you go, there's Reagan National Airport. They've got all of these terminal buildings here. And right next to it is Crystal City. That is Crystal City right there. Right in front of us. A lot of hotels and restaurants here. And nice big tall buildings. Okay, so this is Crystal City. It's a very chic and expensive part of town, but of course right after that is all of these small buildings. Back to what I was saying about Alexandria. Alexandria is just south along the Potomac. It is a very old part of town, whereas all of these are skyscrapers up here. Alexandria has been around since before the country. In fact, the founding fathers met there before we even declared independence, and rebelled at a certain point, not rebelled, but made demands of the Virginia government. So anything on this side of the river is Virginia, and across on the other side is Maryland. Some parts of that are actually part of the District of Columbia. So right about here is Maryland, and over here is DC, the District of Columbia. So you got two states and one district real close to each other. Alexandria was mainly anchored by a man named John Carlyle, who was a Scottish immigrant. John Carlyle was the second son of a very, very rich man. And as the second son, you inherit nothing. So he had to come to America, at the time still a British colony, to make his own fortune here. And he did that by trading all kinds of goods. And he established a Scottish manor in Alexandria, which you can still tour to this day. There's been many things over the years. I believe they hold weddings there now. But this is the town of Alexandria. Notice how short the buildings are. That's because a lot of them are very old. There we are. little park. And there's the John Carlyle house right there. Okay, I'm not going to crash into it. This bridge is part of the Capitol Beltway. There is a highway that runs around the entire city called the Capitol Beltway. It's I-495. But today, Alexandria has a lot of French connections at some point in the past. Alexandria had a lot of French immigration, and so even to this day, you will find French shops, French restaurants, and things like that. Of course, they're run by mostly Americans, but it's thematic. Okay, and this is Alexandria from the other side. I'm going to slow it down now, and if I remember the button correctly, I believe the flaps button is this one. Yeah, we're just going to put flaps into so I can fly a little bit slower and talk to you a little bit more. The central area in Alexandria is King Street. It's full of bars and restaurants and really cool shops. But the top of King Street is the Masonic Temple right here, otherwise known as the George Washington Memorial. Hey, wait, isn't that thing in DC? No, that's the Washington Monument. This is the Washington Memorial. Now, in this game here, excuse me, simulation, it just looks like a building up on a hill. But in real life, this thing is incredibly tall. It is a tall spire. It looks like an Egyptian obelisk of some kind. Just like downtown, except it's more square, and it is still run by the Masons. Okay. We are going to head north now on the Potomac. This is the Alexandria Rail Yard. As I was saying, John Carlyle made his fortune in the Americas by trading mercantile stuff. He would sell anything: dry goods, wet goods, furniture, agricultural goods. And its situation as a major port demanded the expansion of it. So what actually happened is they filled in everything past Water Street. Water Street was on the water and would sometimes flood. Well, they needed more space, so they actually piled dirt into the river and had a man-made bank there. And so now Water Street is no longer on the water. But when it rains heavily, the first few streets of the city next to the river will flood. And this is fine. This happens a lot. It's controlled that way. They can manage it, but it will flood, and then you can't go there. Okay, let's take out those flaps now so I can speed this aircraft up a little bit. Hope you're enjoying your tour. Here's Reagan again, Reagan International Airport. If I were an actual professional tour guide, I would have saved all my talk about Reagan for when we're flying it over here. In the distance, you can see a tall spire right here. That is the Washington Monument, at least as it is rendered in this game. Just in front of it, you will notice there is a little tiny section of the Potomac River that sticks out from it like a... You see the main area here, the main river flows like this, but there's this tiny blue section here. That is the tidal basin. And on one side of it, you will find, on the north side of it, you will find the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial with a statue overlooking the tidal basin staring directly at the United States' third president and well-known slave owner, Thomas Jefferson, staring right back at Martin Luther King Jr. Some people did not appreciate that. Some people did. Some people think MLK is winning the staring contest, and others think it inappropriate. If you ever visit Washington, you can decide for yourself. What is that down there? Does anybody know that building? I'll give you a hint. Look at its shape. That is the Pentagon, the headquarters of the Department of Defense. And these buildings next to it, Pentagon City. There's a mall there, apartments, and a bunch of restaurants. So down below, I'm going to take a nosedive. That is the Jefferson Memorial. Just across. This is the tidal basin. Just across from there. And I'm going to bring in all the flaps that I can. Okay. And that's what the Washington Monument looks like in this game. We'll fly just to the right of that. This is the National Mall. National Mall is used to hold many, many, many events. This is about, what, 3 or 4 miles long, I believe. I guess I can look at it some other time. To your left and right, you will find Smithsonian institutions. This circular building is the Hirshhorn Art Museum. And at the end, you would normally find the U.S. Capitol building. While the buildings aren't much to look at in this game, unless you have additional add-ons, I do enjoy looking at the geography of different cities. That's how I know so much about all these different cities. I know a lot about New York and Paris, Arizona, as we already did on our last tour, Los Angeles, and one of my favorites, San Francisco. I don't just look at the buildings and where things are. I also like to look at the terrain, what rivers are there, what mountains are there. Because it's interesting to me how, for example, the hydrology of this region decided where the city would be. Now, a lot of people think that Washington and D.C. are the same thing. What is the capital of the United States? Is it the District of Columbia? It is not. It is the city of Washington. Alexandria, where we just were, used to be part of the District of Columbia, but not part of the city of Washington. It was the city of Alexandria. So you would say Alexandria, D.C. This is the Lincoln Memorial, and in front of it, you can see right where Forrest Gump ran up and approached the protest, right? During the Vietnam protest. That is the reflecting pool. Okay, we're heading back over to Virginia. This circle here is the beginning of one of the most iconic burial grounds in the United States, Arlington National Cemetery. You can find many, many war dead here, right here. You can see the gravestones. You can also find... Oh, let's face forward in the plane, everybody. You can also find the graves of John F. Kennedy, President of the United States, assassinated 1960, what? 1963, I think. And right across from them, the relatively newly deceased Ruth Bader Ginsburg, U.S. Supreme Court Justice. Long serving and famous for being, I hope I don't have to eat my words here, the first female Supreme Court Justice. It could have been Sandra Day O'Connor. I'll have to check, and I'll post it in the comments. In any case, a well-known champion of women's rights. Once again, flying over the Pentagon. I guarantee you cannot fly over the Pentagon in real life. I mean, I don't actually know that, but you gotta figure they're not gonna just let you do it. Once again, Arlington National Cemetery. In the center of Arlington National Cemetery, a very famous house that used to belong to Robert E. Lee, Civil War general. Robert E. Lee was from a very rich family and so owned a lot of estates. There it is right there. Down here, top of the hill. And now we're still in Virginia. We are now in Arlington, Virginia, from which the cemetery gains its name. And we're at a part of the county of Arlington known as Roslyn. You notice once again tall buildings. Why are they all right here next to the city, and yet over in the city there isn't anything? Well, there's a law. No building can be built over a certain height. The Kennedy Center right there. Center for Performing Arts, Kennedy Center, directly ahead of us. This right here, I believe, is the Watergate Hotel. It may be this one. And Georgetown. Georgetown is the other city, the third city in the District of Columbia, and now it is one of two cities. Many people will still refer to Georgetown as Washington. Close enough. Now, let me slow us down and turn us around a little bit. Doing yet again a very dangerous maneuver. So we're once again over the Potomac. This bridge right here, connecting Georgetown to Roslyn, specifically Arlington County, is the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge. The man who wrote the poem, not the song, but the poem that would eventually be the Star-Spangled Banner, the U.S. national anthem. So why does Roslyn have all these tall buildings? Well, there's a law in D.C. that says no building can be built over a certain height. I think it's 500 feet. Something close to that. And skyscrapers are not allowed. Nothing can be taller than the Washington Monument or interfere with viewing it. So all the tall buildings are built across the river in the state of Virginia. Completely independent government. Well, if you take the state of Virginia and Maryland and D.C. together, it's known as the National Capital Region. So we've seen the Arlington Cemetery, the Washington Monument, and now we're going to fly over this highway. Highway is I-66, known for some of the worst traffic in the entire United States. Now, anytime you hear people say that LA is worse, it's not.
Check 1-2, leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
Oh, frequency change.
Washington Tower, check 1-2 frequency change.
Okay. We'll tune atomic approach, and we're not going to say anything to them right now because I'm talking to you. Okay, we're flying due west. We just flew over most of Arlington County. And we will soon be entering into Fairfax County. Fairfax County is named after Lord Fairfax. It was granted a very, very, very large swath of land from the King of England. This is one of the richest counties in the United States, beaten only by a few places, like I think it's Santa Monica, California, and its neighboring county, Loudoun County. Look up a list of the highest household incomes by county, and you'll find Loudoun County and Fairfax County prominently ranked on that list. Ahead of us is another large section of town known as Reston. Reston was built in 1964, and we're also going to pass over Tyson's Corner. Tyson's Corner is a tech hub, yet another place for rich people to hang out. So back to Reston, though. Reston was built in 1964, designed as a planned community, one of the first planned communities in the United States, which was purposely designed to have people work there, live there, and play there. And that is actually the motto now. They say the words in different orders, though. Live, work, play is usually how it's said, I think, but it wasn't originally like that. It was conceived by a man named Robert E. Simon, who was a real estate developer. He bought 7,000 acres untouched land. It was basically almost swampland or farmland around a lake called Lake Anna. And around Lake Anna, it's a very, very small lake, but around Lake Anna, he planned an entire community, wanting it to be walkable, wanted there to be parkland, integrated commercial spaces, and residences. 7,000 acres. Part of the 1960s Garden City movement. What is a garden city? It is a tiny city outside of a major city, so that people don't have to go into downtown anymore. A huge movement in the 60s to keep people out of cities. Turned out what ended up happening is that bankrupted cities. They lowered their tax base too much. And then they ended up running out of money. But it was good for Reston. So where did Robert E. Simon, if you're paying attention, you'll notice his initials, R-E-S, built a town. R-E-S, town. Rest done. Where did he get the money? His family gave him the money from the sale of Carnegie Hall in Manhattan. Family sold Carnegie Hall and used the money to buy the 7,000 acres that would eventually become Reston. Don't know if I've ever been to Reston before. I doubt it. I don't think I've ever been this far out of the city before. Been to Washington, though. Beautiful landscapes all around. This highway is no longer I-66. It is now I think it is called the Dulles Greenway or something like that. Leads out to Dulles Airport. We're almost on our way, so let's go ahead and contact Potomac Approach. And we're going to say we want Washington Dulles. Let's talk to Dulles Tower.
Dulles Tower check 1-2 is 8 miles east, 1,400 feet with Charlie to land.
We never
Check
did
1
get
to
Charlie.
Dulles Tower. Altimeter 30.45, wind 081 at 4. Enter left downwind runway 12.
Okay, we want the left downwind for runway 12.
Make left downwind runway 12, check 12.
So what we have to do here is we have to slide. Actually, we're right on course. Never mind. So we're overflying Reston here at 120 knots. When we get closer to the airport, we will be bringing in the flaps, slowing down the plane. Pitt Penguin. See how it says P-I-T? P-I-T-T means the University of Pittsburgh. P-I-T means Pittsburgh International Airport, which is how I know that. The international airport is Pitt. The airport we took off from, Reagan, doesn't have an R in it. It's actually DCA, or District of Columbia Airport. And where we are landing is IAD, which I guess stands for International Airport Dulles, as opposed to Dulles International Airport. But you can see it ahead. It's that big blank space where the road is leading us. So we just flew over Reston. Right there. And you can see Lake Anna, that tiny little blue spot right there. Lake Anna. Today, Reston used to be built around Lake Anna, but it expanded and expanded and expanded. And now it is built around Reston Town Center, which is the center of the town. Okay, we have our runway. Runway 12. How do I know that? Well, if I look at my compass heading right here, runway 12 is pointed almost behind my plane, which means the runway should be facing me. And this is the only one facing me. Now, the other way I would do this in real life would be, I would just simply know from an airport map that I would be going over and over and over before I even took off. So I thought we would be landing on 36 Center, which is this guy right here. But instead we are landing on this. There's our runway right there. So we'll be touching down there. We're pinching in a little bit to the airport. And I think at this time, I'm going to slow down the aircraft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my nose on the horizon. I'm going to lower the throttle. And instead of letting the nose drop like that, I'm going to, you see how, look over top of my engine, how it falls? I'm going to hold it up. Right like that. I'm going to keep the horizon just over this guy. I'm looking right here. And you see my speed fall, fall, and fall. And now I'm going to go like this. I'm going to lower the flaps. Now I'm going to speed up a little bit. Now I'm in slow flight. See, by pulling the engine but not letting the nose fall, the plane is running out of energy. It's kind of like a ball rolling uphill across a carpet. It's just going to lose energy if you don't do something to add pressure to it. There's the airport. I don't want to sit in this seat. I want to sit in that seat. Cool. So now we're at 80 knots. And I think I want to go like that. Trim up the airplane. No, that's nose down. We're trimming up the airplane, meaning I'm going to hold the nose off. It's going to slow us down. Now I want to go right there with my flaps. Perfect. Are we across from the runway? We are. I want to descend. We are way too high. I've been talking too much.
Check 12 wind 080 at 4. Clear to land runway 12.
Clear to land runway 12, check 12.
Okay, we have our clearance, so we can descend. I'm gonna lower the power. Right ahead of you, you can see the Blue Ridge Mountains. On one side, during the Civil War, were the Union forces, and on the other side, Lee, General Lee, whose mansion we saw earlier, took an entire, I don't know, division, corps, something like that, an army, really, the Army of Northern Virginia, all the way on the other side, where the Union forces at the time couldn't really see them or track them, all the way up to Gettysburg. Famous Battle of Gettysburg across the Pennsylvania line. And there were many, many, many other battles around here. I was just looking at a map of them. It's incredible. The Battle of Manassas, you may have heard, or the Battle of Bull Run, as it's also known. Not too far from here. It's almost at that horizon, really. Right about here. Yes. Okay, I've kind of lost the airport. I should probably start worrying about landing a plane instead of talking about Civil War history. I don't even know what country you guys are from. Leave me a comment, let me know. If I'm telling you more about Ruth Bader Ginsburg than you need to know, I apologize for that. Don't know who you are. Right, we're gonna go full flaps. And we're just going to cut the engine because I am running a little bit high. I can tell because I have 4 white lights here. Right there. So I'm just gonna settle it in. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at the end of the runway and I'm comparing it to the lines in front of me. So I'm looking here and I want this line to be tilting like it's going to pass off this foot, and this line like it's going to come down and hit this foot. So I'll show you what it looks to be on the right side of the line. See this? Okay, we're getting real slow. I need to power up the engine. See how I'm lined up? It looks like that's going to hit our right foot and the other side of the runway is not going to hit anything. Let's go back to the center line. Now it looks like I'm splitting the 2 lines. And what's hitting the plane? It's that like center line. So we're just going to angle it right there, right at the numbers, right at the numbers. We don't want to go too high, so I'm pulling the throttle back, back, back. We don't want to pull up early. We want to keep our nose on the center line. Now I'm looking at the end of the runway and my airspeed. End of the runway, airspeed 40 miles an hour. We're at 50, 45. Perfect. We're almost on the ground. Touchdown. Keep that nose off the ground. Off the ground. Don't let it touch. Don't let it touch. Don't let it touch. There you go.
Check
And
12
what that
exit
does...
runway when able.
All right. Exit the runway when able. I don't have to tell her anything. So what that does, keeping the nose off the ground, is it exposes the underbelly of the plane to the wind. It allows you to slow down a little bit better. Aerodynamic braking. That really only works in small planes because we're going much slower. And the air means more to us, to small planes. Like your jets aren't going to do that. Your jets have giant brakes. But on these tiny planes, it's almost like your car. Not that big. Okay, we want to go right here. We want to pick up a taxi line. I don't even see a taxi
Check
line.
12 turn next taxiway.
Okay, I'll turn right here then, I think. I think this is a taxiway. I can't quite tell. I don't know if the game has it rendered perfectly. Here we go.
Check 12 contact ground on 121.9er.
We are still on the runway. You are not off the runway until you've
Going
crossed...
to 121.9er, check 12.
Until you've crossed that line. Old short line. Well, you saw Arlington Cemetery. You saw Alexandria, famed city of the Walking Dead, and important to the capital region. You saw the Washington Monument rendered as a tiny, tiny, tiny skyscraper, the Hirshhorn Museum, the Lincoln Memorial, the Reflecting Pool, Arlington Cemetery. Did I say that one? Tyson's Corner was the big building we flew over when we were starting to talk about Reston. You saw Georgetown, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and of course Arlington. So I'm going to go ahead and set my parking brake. We're going to pretend like we're back. And hello, here I am again, your tour guide today. We're going to shut down the avionics. We're going to shut off our lights. We're going to pull the mixture. And I'm going to say goodbye to you. I had a lot of fun doing that. I can't wait to do New York or Chicago in the same sort of style. If you liked it, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, consider subscribing to the channel. And I think I'm going to see you for your next flight.